The single, most paralyzing myth of later life is the belief that who you are now is fixed and that radical change or reinvention is only possible for the young. We hear this all the time, right? We see it in movies, we absorb it from culture, and a lot of us, well, we start to believe it. But what if that idea isn't just wrong? What if it's the exact opposite of the truth?
Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the new science of lifelong growth. Our mission? To completely dismantle that myth, piece by piece. We're going to explore how reinventing yourself after 60 isn't some hopeful fantasy, but a real biological possibility. So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle that reinvention myth head-on. Then, we'll look at the incredible opportunity this new chapter of life presents and uncover your brain's hidden power. After that, we'll get practical with a 3-step action plan, talk about embracing the learning curve, and we'll finish up with your very first intentional act.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, the great reinvention myth. We're going to challenge this deeply ingrained idea that your identity is somehow set in stone. It's this cultural story that says, after a certain age, your potential is locked. But is there any truth to that?
I mean, really think about it for a second. Is personal reinvention really just a young person's game? It's a belief that's so common we barely even question it. You see stories about 20-somethings switching careers, and it's easy to think, good for them. We just assume that window for big, meaningful change has closed for us.
But here's the core truth we're going to unpack today, and it really is shocking. Reinventing yourself after 60 isn't just possible, it is arguably more possible, more achievable, and even more rewarding than at any other time in your entire life. Now, this isn't just some feel-good talk. It's grounded in real science and the unique opportunities of this life stage.
And that leads us perfectly into section 2, a new chapter's opportunity. Because, it's one thing to say change is possible, but it's another thing to understand why this particular time of life is so perfectly suited for it. So let's look at why now is the ideal time to take on a brand new mission.
As the structure of your main career fades, you really find yourself at a crossroads. One path can be stagnation, where there's just not enough mental stimulus, and that can lead to feeling a bit obsolete, and frankly, research shows it can even contribute to cognitive decline. But the other path, that one is full of the rewards of novelty. It's about finding new purpose, building exciting new skills, and the direct result of that is enhanced mental vitality for the long haul. So reinvention isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a crucial strategy.
And here's the key. The two resources that were probably in the shortest supply during your working years, time and energy, are now your greatest assets. Just think about all the hours, all the mental bandwidth that went into your job. All of that is now freed up. This isn't an ending, it's a reallocation of your most precious resources. You can now invest them in a new mission, something that was probably impossible just a few years ago.
So this brings us to the scientific heart of our whole conversation today, your brain's hidden power. We've talked about the opportunity. Now let's explore the biological engine that actually makes all of this radical change possible.
Okay, the first big word you need to know is neuroplasticity. For the longest time, science thought the adult brain was basically fixed. We now know that's completely wrong. Neuroplasticity is your brain's amazing, lifelong ability to rewire itself by forming new connections as you learn and have new experiences. And the best part, this ability does not have an expiration date.
Probably the easiest way to picture this is to think of your brain like a giant map of roads. The skills and habits you use every day are like wide, paved highways. Well, learning something brand new is like your brain building a totally new road. At first, it's just a dirt path, and it's tough going. But the more you use it, the wider and smoother it becomes. You can build these new roads at any age. This second critical idea here is cognitive reserve. This is basically your mind's resilience, its ability to cope with the challenges that naturally come with aging. And the most important thing to know is that this isn't something you're just born with. It is built. And you build it by consistently taking on new, challenging, and stimulating activities.
So, if neuroplasticity is the process of building new roads, then cognitive reserve is the result. It's having a denser, more complex road network in your brain. You can think of it like a rainy day fund for your mind. The more pathways you have, the more options your brain has to bypass any potential roadblocks, which keeps you sharp and vital for years to come.
So how do we actually do this? How do we build that reserve? Well, there are two keys. The first is novelty and complexity.
This is not about doing more of the same, like another crossword puzzle. It's about learning skills that are truly new and that use different parts of your brain all at once. Think learning a musical instrument, a new language, or even computer programming. The second key is what we call wisdom novelty fusion. This is your secret weapon. It's about taking all your life experience and wisdom and applying it to this new thing you're learning. That combination creates incredibly strong new connections in your brain.
And all of this is why we say that taking on a new complex skill after 60 isn't just a hobby to pass the time, it's a cognitive mandate. It is truly one of the most powerful investments you can make in your own future health, your sense of purpose, and your mental vitality.
Okay, so we get the science now. We understand why this works. So let's get practical. In this next section, we're going to lay out a really simple 3-step action plan. Think of it as a gentle, practical guide to start your own transformation.
The framework is incredibly simple, but it's powerful. Just 3 steps. First is the audit, which is where you figure out what you actually want to do. Second is the daily drip, which is all about how you'll stay consistent. And third is the social link, which is about who you'll do it with to get that support and accountability. All right, let's break down step 1, the audit. This is all about intentional self-reflection. Start with what we call a passion inventory. Just ask yourself, what have I always been curious about? What did I always wish I had time for? Then do a skills audit. Get specific. What complex skill do I actually want to master? Is it playing guitar? Learning to paint with watercolors? Maybe coding a simple app? And finally, define your mission. Is your main goal contribution, maybe using this new skill to help others? Or is it mastery, just the pure joy of getting really good at something new? Both are fantastic motivators.
Now, once you know your mission, you're ready for step 2, and this is all about consistency. We call it the Daily Drip Challenge, and it is the absolute key to making neuroplasticity work for you. You have to remember this. Consistency is so much more important than intensity. A little bit of practice, day in and day out, is what really builds and strengthens those new pathways in your brain.
And the best part? The commitment is totally manageable. We are talking about 30 minutes a day. That's it. This isn't about hours and hours of grueling practice, just 30 focused, intentional minutes. That small, achievable goal is what makes the whole process sustainable. It turns what feels like a giant mountain into a series of small, easy steps. And finally, step 3 is to embrace social learning. Please don't try to do this alone. Joining a group class or a workshop does 2 incredibly important things. First, it gives you accountability. It's way easier to stick with your 30 minutes of practice when you know you're going to see your classmates next week. And second, just as important, it helps you build a whole new social network and even a new identity around your new passion.
Okay, let's move on to a really important part of this journey, embracing the learning curve. Because, let's be real, learning something new can be hard. It can be frustrating. This section is all about finding the wisdom in that struggle and, more importantly, reframing what that feeling of difficulty actually means.
This might be the most important mindset shift you can make. When you're trying to learn that new chord on the guitar and your fingers just feel clumsy, or you're trying to grasp a new word in a foreign language and it just won't stick, that feeling of struggle is not a sign that you're failing. It is the physical evidence that your brain is changing. It's the feeling of new roads being built. It is, quite literally, the feeling of growth.
And please, remember that wisdom novelty fusion we talked about? Your decades of life experience, your problem-solving skills, your patience, your understanding of how you learn. All of that isn't in the past. It's the capital you are investing in this new mission. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from a place of deep, valuable experience.
And that brings us to our final and maybe our most important section, your first intentional act. We've talked about the myth, the opportunity, the science, the plan. Now it's time to turn all of this knowledge into real, concrete action.
So right now, I want you to just pause for a second and really think about this question. Based on everything we've talked about, what is the one complex skill that really sparks your curiosity? What's the one thing you want to learn? And try to be specific. Don't just say art. Say learning how to paint landscapes with watercolors. Name it.
And here it is. This is the single most important action you can take. Your final step today is to take that skill you just named and schedule your very first 30-minute practice session. I mean it. Open the calendar on your phone, grab a pen, and block out the time for tomorrow. This isn't just a nice idea. This is the act that kicks off the entire process. This is what makes it real.
So as we wrap this up, just remember this.
That capacity for radical change, it's not something you lose. It is a lifelong asset, and it's powered by your brain's incredible ability to change itself. The best part is how simple it is to get started. Just a consistent daily drip of 30 minutes focused on a new, complex skill. By scheduling that first session, you are making a choice for continuous growth. You're ensuring that your later years are defined not by what's been lost, but by vitality, purpose, and endless self-discovery.